Theresa Rowe hosts Shaped by Faith on WOMI. Each Friday, Saturday, and Sunday here on WOMI, join Theresa for motivational, encouraging, and inspiring interviews with special guests. Also, listen for the workout of the week, exercises that suit you any time of the day. Shaped by Faith on WOMI and online at WOMIOwensboro.com. Now, here's Theresa Rowe.
Welcome to Shaped by Faith. Happy New Year, everyone. It's 2016. I'm Theresa Rowe, and I'm so excited about our show today. Our show is all about transforming ourselves from the inside out. And I want to start out by sharing with each of you what God has to say about transformation. In the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2, his word says, "Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." There's also another amazing scripture in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 17, that says, "If anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come and the old has gone. The new is here." Well, I want to welcome my guest today, Scott Blanford. I'm so excited. He is an amazing transformation story to share with all of us today. How you doing, Scott?
I'm good. Thank you, Theresa, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're talking by phone today, and Scott took time out of his day to speak with us, and I'm so grateful for that. Scott, I just want to start out by saying, thanks for being on the show. And I mean, when I heard about your transformation, I was blown away. I really was. I've interviewed people that have lost 100 pounds before. I've interviewed people that have lost, 75 pounds before. But, I mean, you lost 351 pounds. I mean, I could not even believe it.
I did to lose, probably. That's probably it.
Well, in May of 2013, what was your weight then, Scott?
610.
Wow. Obviously, all that extra weight had to come on at some point in your life. Did you struggle with weight at all as a child?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I was heavy, and then, I ended up going into the military, and as I went in my senior year of high school, I grew taller and I lost weight, and I went into the military, and I was in, we trained pretty rigid, and I was down to 210 pounds when I got out of basic training, and I went until I was probably 26, then I started gaining weight. I'd say when I was about 27 or 28, I probably was up to about 280. And then, I ended up getting married and I worked for O'Charlie's, and, my job was stressful, and I pretty much ate. I didn't do anything else. I didn't have any, I ate and I ate and ate and ate, and I just let myself get out of control, and, and that's, I ended up where I was, and I was in a bad place. I mean, I was in a deep, deep hole.
Mm-hmm.
And, I asked God to help me, and he did.
Wow. So, you're working at O'Charlie's. Was that hard to work in a restaurant being surrounded by food all the time? Was there a lot of temptation there?
Well, yeah, there's some. I mean, but, I've been there so long that, I mean, the food, after a while, you eat the same thing, it gets old. But the hardest thing for me is you're on your feet, 11 hours a day. It's not, a restaurant manager doesn't get to sit down and eat lunch. It's not like that. You're moving constantly, you're on your feet, and it was getting pretty tough for me. I got to the point where, I get a little emotional when I talk about this. I got to the point where I couldn't tie my shoes anymore. And I actually one day fell down. I've always been a guy that, to take care of myself, and I'm not really scared of much. I fell down on the ice outside my house one day, and it was about 0 degrees, and I didn't think I was going to get up. I thought I was going to die. It was everything I could do to get up. And, we had, I'd asked God to help me, and I'd been trying to have the surgery for a while, and my company denied it, and then just at the last minute, we were able to get it. And once I got it, I decided that I'd never, ever, ever go back. That I was going to do everything I could to succeed and get back to where I wanted to be.
So was that fall on the ice, Scott, your moment that triggered you and got your attention? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to live like this anymore.
Somewhat. I mean, I'd been, I guess, when you have your daughter that's 13 years old helping you tie your shoes. And, you know, you can't, you know, you know, I used to run the nightclubs and in Florida, and I used to do all this stuff, and I used to think, you know, I could take care of myself, and I was getting to the point I couldn't even, you know, I was going to get to the point where I couldn't take care of myself, and I was like, I was done. But getting the weight loss surgery is a process, but for me, the weight loss surgery was just a small piece because I had so much to lose. But I prayed, and, you know, I asked God, you know, and I said, I think God gives you the ability to set in your mind, you know, if you make a plan and you decide to stick to it and you decide where you want to be, He'll take you there if you believe. And I decided that not only was I going to lose the weight, I was going to work out. I was going to hit it from both sides. I was going to lose the weight from the outside, and I was going to build muscle on the inside, and I was going to push and push. And I guess what I'm proudest about is not only did I lose the weight, but I do yoga and my workouts are very extreme now because I push myself. So I'm in better shape now than I was when I was in the military.
You know, let me go back to you where you said you prayed and you trusted God and you believed that He would help you, and absolutely. And your mindset, you had your mindset on this. Before all this occurred, before you had your surgery, how was your spiritual life with God? Like, you know, how were you in high school and how were you in the military with God?
Right. Okay, that's a good question. So it's sort of a bumpy road. When I was a young kid, when I was 12, we went to my grandmother to a small church in Sargo, and you know, the Southern Baptist you can get, you know, and then we sort of left church. I really didn't do much with church or with God, you know, through the military and when I was running nightclubs. Then when I, you know, got married and I lived in St. Louis, I sort of reconnected, and I was involved with a big church in St. Louis that actually the pastor is on TV. I used to do set design for him. I went from designing nightclubs to designing sets, and I really had a great relationship. Things were going well. We were in the blessing. I was heavy then, but not as heavy as I ended up getting. We left St. Louis and moved to Elizabethtown, and that's really when we didn't find a church. We sort of stepped away. And that's really when my weight started shooting up, and I really wasn't. I mean, I I never went against God, but I wasn't close to Him. I didn't have conversations with Him like I do now, and you know, and so yeah, when I decided to have the surgery, you know, one thing about the surgery is when you have it, you're told you have to get up and walk immediately. And I prayed to God, and I tell you, I was up within an hour of waking up from my surgery. And my doctor actually let me out early because I started walking right away. And I just decided, you know, I talked to God. I said, when you allow me to have this, I'm going to do everything in my power through you, and I'm going to be the best that I can be. And as the weight started coming off, and, you know, I never dreamed I would lose this much. I never did. I mean, I always wanted to. I always had that desire. But now I feel like it's my duty to help other people. You know, if they choose to be helped, you know, that's my duty, because if there's nobody's going to be in a deeper hole than I was. I'm not saying, but it's hard to me imagine somebody being as far out as I was. So,
Scott, when you came out of the surgery, like shortly after the surgery, how much weight did you lose right after the surgery?
Well, it's sort of, you have to lose. The funny part I always thought was, I go in and they told me I had to lose 20 pounds because of a certain thing. I'm like, they made me go on a liquid diet for 2 weeks, and I'm thinking, well, that's part of the reason I'm getting the surgery is because I have trouble eating myself. But I lost about, I think, 20 pounds before I had the surgery.
Okay.
And then you really don't lose the first week. I mean, because, you know, just surgery, you know, things like that. I'm not going to go into all that. But then I started walking. My daughter actually was home with me from school. It was during the summer. And I took a month off from work, and we started walking the first day. I walked to my mailbox. It was hard. It was no joke. It was hard.
How far away was your mailbox, Scott?
About 200, 300 feet from my house. You know, a football field. And it was tough. And then the next day we did it. Then I walk a little bit farther, and then every day incrementally we just, you know, I got a little bit stronger. And, you know, I was very weak the first 2 or 3 weeks. You know, the combination of going from probably consuming 8,000 calories a day down to, you know, 400 you eventually go to solid food. So that your body reacting to that makes you weak. But I walked, and then I adjusted to the diet. And what I had a gastric sleeve. So what it does is they remove 70% of my stomach, and I can't eat as much. But I already had my mindset. Once it was easier, I didn't have the appetite, and once you got going, just like any diet, if you get going a week or two, you get in the habit. I was in it. I wasn't gonna step away from it. So.
Scott, we're going to take a break, and we want to continue. You are totally amazing, and wow, what God has done for you and is doing through you. But let's take a break, and we're going to come right back, okay? Everyone stay tuned. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith. Well, our show today is totally amazing. I have Scott Blanford on the line here. Scott, where are you at right now?
I'm actually in Court. I live in Corbin, Indiana.
Okay.
I like to call it Mayberry.
Okay, he's in Mayberry. He's not with me in the studio, but we're talking by phone. And Scott has lost 351 pounds, and he was telling us how he did that. And Scott, you had what kind of surgery did you have?
I had a gastric sleeve.
Okay.
And then basically the optimal success rate for a gastric sleeve is 70% weight loss, and I have pretty much blown by that. So with God's help, obviously, so what it does is it limits your intake, and then but my doctor, I have her name is Dr. Clooney. She didn't do my surgery. She's my private physician. She's helped me along the way, and she talks about all the time that she has other patients she's seen that have had the surgery. If you don't work at it, it doesn't. They've lost 20 pounds. So
yes.
It's just a tool. I mean, it's not a silver bullet. I knew that going in. I'd done a lot of research. It's just a tool. I mean, but if your mind isn't where it needs to be, you should never have the surgery, because it's something you can't go back from.
Absolutely. And what you did, you went by the word and you renewed your mind in Christ. You asked God to help you, and that's straight out of the Bible, Romans 12:2. I mean, you went right there to the word where you should go, and it's really a supernatural transformation that God allowed you to experience. And I think we're all, at one period of time or another, we're wounded warriors for Christ. I think we have to fall before we can really go out there on the battlefield and be who God created us, to be on a daily basis. And that's what you did. Well, let's talk about some things that you started to do. You started to walk to your mailbox, which was how far away again from your home?
About a football field. It was about a football field, and then I'd do that. Every day I'd go up and back the first time, it was everything I do. And then the next day, go up and back, I'd go up again. It just became, every day it was a little bit more. I'd do a little bit more. And then, and I still do that. I mean, to this day, I push myself to the extreme now. And because I can do it, it's fun for me. And I consider it training. I don't look at it as working out. I feel like I do different things. I add different elements to my workouts all the time. I do a lot of outdoor stuff. So it was all incremental. But I tell people all the time that ask me, I get asked a lot, obviously, and you can't start out at the extreme end.
No way.
You have to, if you're not doing anything now, you just gotta, I tell people it's gotta be incremental. You've got to, if you're let's just say you're eating 5 cheeseburgers a day, we'll eat 4 tomorrow,
Right.
And then if you're not walking at all, get up and walk, 100 feet and back. And just every day add a little bit. If you try to go, to the gusto, like the videos or the programs out there where they show the guy, you're not going to make it.
Absolutely. Scott, yes, and there's so many awesome videos out there and so many awesome things that we could do, but I tell my students the same thing. Not everyone can do that. And, if you've got an injury, you're not going to be doing these burpees where you explode up and throw yourself down in a plank. That's just silly. And, as a fitness instructor, and I've been that almost my whole adult life, I have learned you've got to know your people. You've got to know who's out there, and you've got to be able to teach in a way that a beginner that has never done exercise can do this, an intermediate, and someone like you who will go to the extremes. You've got to know how to push them at the same time too. So I would tell everyone out there, you know, if you want to find a trainer, find someone who will do that, not someone that'll say, hey, get down, give me 50 push-ups the first day. I mean, that's not, you know, really, I mean, that's just discouraging. So with your eating, Scott, what did you start to do? Like, how did you start? You said before you ate like 8,000 calories a day. So
that was, yeah, absolutely. And then I did, you know, I ate a lot of, well, obviously, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I have some nutritional understanding. And, you know, then, of course, when you have the surgery, they send you to a nutritionist. So I had a pretty good basic understanding of what you should and shouldn't eat. You know, I went to a high protein, high fiber, and I pretty much I didn't totally cut out carbs, but to this day, I have a very low carb diet. But the other thing I did that I think is the biggest thing is I eat small meals 6 times a day. I'm not strict on that. Like, it's not, I don't have set times, but I eat probably about every 2 or 3 hours, and I eat small portions. And then I eat slow and until I'm satisfied. I don't eat past that point.
Mm-hmm. And that's good advice.
You know, I'm sorry?
No, that's great advice right there. Eat you know, 6 small meals a day.
Fruits and vegetables, and, you know, you want to, you know, for nutrition, you want, you know, fruits and vegetables. And I do a lot of protein. I mean, just for example, this morning, if I'm in a hurry, and I like, they have the little sausage patties. I'll eat a sausage patty, you know, or 2 or whatever. It depends on if I'm hungry or not. Or I'll eat, you know, lean beef or something like that. And I don't do a lot of bread. But I don't. Also, the other thing I decided to do whenever I had this surgery was, because I had lost 100 pounds with Weight Watchers a few years before, and on my own. But I was so rigid and so strict that I would not eat anything. And I tell people the story. I got to 100 pounds, and I went out and celebrated. And of all places, I went to Taco Bell and had nachos. And it was like I went off the wagon, and I gained all that weight back. So I told myself, if I wanted something, I was going to have it. And, you know, I was going to just stay on it. So I did. You know, if I wanted a cheeseburger from McDonald's or, you know, whatever, I had it. But then the next day, I went back, you know, and that's what I see people that are friends of mine that are healthy and good shape, they do. They don't totally eliminate everything out of their diet, but they're smart about it. They do it in moderation. If they want a piece of cheesecake, they have it. Right. They probably walk an extra 20 minutes on the treadmill, and they don't do it the next day, you know. So that's what has worked for me, you know. Right. Everybody has their own thing that they have to do.
Scott, I want to talk about a ministry that you started, a sock ministry. I want you to share with the listeners what you're doing with that and what gave you that idea.
Well, I tell you, it's the funniest thing, and that's why my pastor says to me, he's an awesome guy. He says, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen, socks. And I've sort of actually haven't been working at that much the last month or so because I've been focused on at work and stuff, but it was a fluke, or it was God. So part of what I do since I've lost all this weight, I like to wear bright colors. I like to wear, I wear Under Armour socks. I'm into socks, I'm into shoes. It's sort of just what I do, you know, especially that's how I treat myself. So I had pretty much every pair of socks that the shoe sensation here in town had. And one day I walked in there and all they had was breast cancer awareness, pink footy socks. And I said, you know what? I'm comfortable with myself. I'm not worried about what anybody else thinks. So I got the pink socks. I wore them in the gym. And I was at home. Little girl across the street, she's about 10. Her name's Alyssa. She saw the socks. She goes, oh, I love those socks. Well, I had another pack. And I said, okay. So I gave them to her. Didn't think anything about it, just to be nice to her. The next morning, her mom messages me with a picture of the socks on her feet going, you don't know this, but I survived lymphoma cancer. And I was like, wow, it touched her. And it touched me. And for some reason, I went out to a couple of friends of mine and gave them socks. and asked them. I said, you know what? You go get socks. And then it just turned into something. I mean, people started giving other people socks. Under Armour actually sent me 200 pair of socks to give away.
Wow.
It just turned into something just to be nice. It's all about being nice.
Yes.
I mean, there's nothing, it's genuine. There's no money involved. There's no gimmick. It's just you give somebody a pair of socks, and Under Armour's what we've used just because it sort of keep it, you give somebody a pair of socks, you tag me, and then we just post it. And
That's
it.
awesome.
Nice.
Scott,
I had a lady one day walk into the restaurant, and for whatever reason, she had seen my Facebook, and I felt led to give her a pair of socks, and I come to find out she had survived breast cancer. So it's happened like I've had, and the socks I think people think they're just for cancer. They're for anything, for
right.
people that have lost hope or sad or, and so it's been a great, we had socks actually go on a mission trip to Colombia. And, so it's something that I'm going to really start back up
right.
here soon, give out some more socks and things like that. But because I will give people socks and then they'll give them to other people.
Well, let's take a break, Scott, and we're going to come back with the exercise segment, but I want you to tell people where they can find you when we come back, okay?
Okay.
All right, stay tuned.
WOMI and WOMIOwensboro.com.
Welcome back to Shaped by Faith, and Happy New Year. I've got Scott Blanford actually on the phone with me today, and Scott, the first two segments, was sharing with us his transformation story, going from 610 pounds and losing 351 pounds. Scott, you're in tip-top condition, and it's been a journey. It's been a process. So what we want to do in this segment is just share with our listeners some tips, some things, some easy things that they can do just to get started. But before we do that, I just want to shout out and tell everyone, Owensboro Christian Church Rec Center is open for free. I don't know if you know that if you're out there listening. We've got a walking track. We've got a workout room with ellipticals, treadmills, heavy weights. We've got benches. We've got stability balls, weighted bars, the BOSU, everything in there, and it is free. We just don't spend the money to advertise it. So I just wanted to let everyone know out there, if you need a place to work out, you don't have the equipment, come on over to Owensboro Christian Church Rec Center. I teach faith-based fitness classes called Shaped by Faith at Owensboro Christian Church, along with 3 other faith-based fitness instructors. So you're going to get not only a challenging workout for your body, but your spirit's going to be lifted up, and you're going to be encouraged to go out there and be who God has created you to be. Scott, let's just start talking about where someone needs to start, if they're starting a exercise routine, and then I'll add my advice as well.
Well, like I said to you earlier, mine is I started incrementally in the sense that I started walking. And, walking is something you can do. I'm real big on, I'm on the board at the YMCA here, but I can do everything I do outside. Mm-hmm. So, technically I don't do weights. I'm not looking to bulk up. I'm looking to, lean up, be lean. I do a lot of, I do yoga, which has really helped me. It has helped me with my flexibility. It has helped me with my core strength, my balance. I do. So I think walking is probably if your knees are good. If your knees aren't good, there are classes out there where therapy pools where you can, I'm sure there's some places in Owensboro where you can go and do low impact on your joints. Sure. Swimming is good. Whatever, you got to find what is fun for you. I mean, it's got to be fun. If it's a chore, I think that you will have a hard time sticking to it. Right. And you got to start slow. Right. If you haven't exercised in 10 years, don't go take a high impact.
You've been listening to
Shaped
by Faith with motivational speaker and fitness expert Theresa Rowe. Every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, join Theresa and enjoy motivational
go at your own pace.
Special guests from
go at your own. Don't go get a trainer that is free.
Fitness to help develop and nurture your mind, body, and soul. Enjoy a weekly workout with Shaped by Faith. And to see the workout with Theresa and her special guests, log on to WOMIOwensboro.com.
Scott, I tell my do for fun. Work on your breathing and your awareness. Work on your deep breathing and work out 1 to 2 times a week. That may be a 10-minute walk. But work on your awareness, where your body's moving and how you're feeling. Work on your spiritual awareness. Where are you at with God? Open your heart to Him. But where can people find you, Scott, on Facebook?
Well, I have a Facebook page that I accept. It's Scott. It's SCOTT, and then Blanford, BLANFORD. You can friend me.